Hello everyone, welcome again to yet another session on readings on Kerala. Today we are going to discuss on Rain at Night by Sugata Kumari. Sugata Kumari, she is the daughter of the eminent Malayalam poet Bodheshwaran and the Sanskrit scholar Katyani Amma. She is a prominent voice in the contemporary Malayalam literature who is noted for her philosophical and perspective poems. She is also a renowned environmental and social activist. Her poetry is noted for its emotional empathy, human sensitivity, and moral alertness. Her poems reflect a quest for a woman's identity and integration, a deep reverence for nature, and a profound understanding of the liberating power of love. Sugatakumari belongs to the romantic tradition of poetry which began with the Kumaranashan and flourished with Changambura Krishnapilla. In the 1960s, the writers, including O.N.V. Kuruppa, Sugatakumari, Vishnu Narayan Nambudiri, and the like, wrote poems which have romantic tendencies. Though Sugatakumari's poems can be seen as a continuation of the romantic poetry, she has equally raised social issues and mythical themes in her poetry. Her major poems include Ratrimala, Ambalamani, Muthuchippi, Pavamana Hridayam, പാതിരപ്പൂക്കൾ, കാടിന് കാവൽ, മണലെഴുത്ത് and സുഗതകുമാരിയുടെ കവിതകൾ. She has received many accolades, which includes Sahitya Academy of Award in 1968 for her Padira Pukal or Flowers of Midnight. Ratri Mara or Night Rain won the Kendra Sahitya Academy Award in 1978. She is also the recipient of Order Award in 1982 and Voila Award in 1984, which was followed by Ashan Smaraga Award for her collection of poems, namely Kurinni Pukal or Kurinni Flowers. Other major honors include Ashan Prize in 1991, Vallatola Award in 2003, Eഴുത്തച്ഛൻ Award in 2009, and the like. The people of Kerala know her both as a poet and as a fighter who involves in the struggle to save the environment and nature of Kerala. Her poems such as Ratri Mara or The Rain at Night and Krishna Ni Ennariyilla are very popular among the Keralites. The poem Rain at Night or Ratri Mara is taken from the collection Ratri Mara, that is with the same title, and it has been translated to English by Sugdakumari's own sister and literary critic H. Hriday Kumari as Rain at Night. The poem Rain at Night is written in 6 sections but does not have a regular stanzaic form. Rain at Night, soaked in melancholy, articulates the solitary musings of a distraught heart, but not without a haunting sense of feminist concern underlying it. Echoing some of the issues raised by the women's movement of the 70s and 80s, we can see that Subhadra Kumari's poetry mounted increasingly feminist responses to social order and injustice. Regarding the context of the poem Rain at Night, Sugundamari, as she said in one of her interviews, stating that the situation that prompted her to pen down the poem, how once she was surprised by the arrival of sudden downpour of rain while she was writing in her room, reclusively ruminating. However, the poem is not a romantic or dreamy laurel on the mysterious beauty of the night rain, but it is rather an elegy or a lyrical requiem, or what should I say, the funeral song for the pain and loneliness endured by the speaker or the night narrator, uh, uh, that is a woman who is hovering her like an ominous nimbus. So the tone of the poem is one of desolation and despondency, as the narrator is seen lying in a hospital bed, withered and worn out by sickness. In a poem that is exceedingly and elaborately caricatures a natural element. The mention of this hospital and the image of the hospital itself is detrimentally ominous. Let's start with the poem. Rain at night, like some young mad women, for nothing, weeping, laughing, whimpering, muttering without a stop, and sitting huddled up, tossing her long hair. Rain at night or night rain. She is like what? She is like some young mad women or insane women who weeps, that is, who cries, laughs, whimpers. Whimpers means crying with a low, broken voice, who mutters without a stop. And she sits huddled up, or she sits with the legs curled up to the chest, or she drew oneself together, tossing her long hair. She moves her back suddenly to and forth with a shaking movement, which shows her anger or which shows a reaction that she does not care about anything. So, in the first stanza, the poet describes the night train as a young mad woman who is weeping, laughing, whimpering without a cause and without a stop, and is sitting huddled up, tossing her long hair. The very first few lines of the poem itself reflects the turbulent petulance that accompanies the pestering sickness that pulverizes not only one's body but also the psyche, which makes it viable for the ascent of a vigorous, vicious madness. And words used in this stanza, it creates images of sounds made by the incessant rain. And this poem addresses the emotional trauma experienced by women in the present patriarchal society. And so there are implicit comparison between the rain and women. So the very first stanza itself, the rain at night, is being compared to a young mad woman. And in the ensuing stanzas, we find Rain at Night is being compared not only to a young mad woman but also mother and witness of her love. In this stanza, the poet compares the night rain to a mad young woman who acts differently. And according to the poet, the rain explores all the characteristics of a young mad woman who weeps, laughs, whims, and mutters alternatively. The speaker in the poem thus identifies herself with night train, and the shifting moods of the person are parallel with that of the night train or rain at night. Moving on to the next stanza. Rain at night, pensive daughter of the dusky night, gliding slowly like a long veil into the hospital, extending her cold fingers through the window and touching me. So again, you can find another comparison given by Sugata Kumari. Rain at night is being compared to the pensive daughter of the dusky night who glides. Pensive daughter means a very thoughtful daughter of the dusky, very shadowy night, gliding slowly or slipping slowly like a long veil, that is, with a prolonged cry into this hospital, extending her cold fingers again reminds us of the cold fingers of death through the window pane and touching me. So poet here addresses night rain as the pensive daughter of the dusky night, the setting up an insidious, rather sneaky, sinister tone for the poem. So the night rain, with her cold fingers gliding slowly like a long veil, arrives beside the speaker's bed at hospital. This dark, disconsolate image of the night train discreetly discharges an ominous and foreboding picture of death itself. Here we can say that death, disguised in the inky blackness of the night and the incessant music of the rain, arrives at the poet's bedside to console her and free her of her mischance and misery with a touch of her cold fingers. Again, I told you before that cold fingers reminds us of the cold death. The speaker also here portrays the exotic feeling when raindrops touches her through the open window. Poet thus creates the gloomy and painful atmosphere of the hospital. Moving on to the next stanza. Rain at night when groans and shudders and sharp voices and the sudden anguished cry of a mother shake me, and I put my hand to my ears and sob, tossing on my sick bed, you, like a dear one, coming through the gloom with comforting words. So we can find many comparisons of rain at night. Let's see another comparison. Rain at night when groans and shudders. When groans means by producing a low mournful sound which conveys grief or pain, and shudders or shivers, and sharp voices, and the sudden anguish with extreme pain, extreme anguish cry, extreme painful cry of a mother. Shake me, and I put my hand to my ears and sob, tossing on my sick bed, you, like a dear one, coming through the gloom or the sadness with comforting words or solace. So here the poet continuously softens the harshness of a hospital scene by passingly encasing the horrors in the lines mentioning the groans and shudders and sharp voices and in the sudden anguish cry of a mother. Here, narrator digresses or deviates the terror of these anguished or painful cries and drowns them in the gradual decrease of the incessant night rain. Here we find that rain is being personified as a dear one who comes through the gloom with comforting words or with solace. So it is in the benevolent embrace of the nature our narrator finds the sanctuary and the sanctum or the peace that the materialistic patriarchal world can never provide her with. The poet feels that rain is her best companion even in the late evening of her life. She recalls rain as a witness to her grief on the sickbed. She recognizes the welcomed presence of rain during her sleepless nights. So here the night rain assumes the role of a friend and a nurse in the speaker's life. So here we find that that is some next four lines we find that somebody said a deceased part can be cut and removed, but what can be done to the poor heart deeply deceased? So the last four lines of this stanza we find that we come across the lines that embody the vicious truth of the wild subjugation and suffering that the speaker underwent, thus becoming the victim of the patriarchal world that denies a woman the freedom even for the basic human rights. So a diseased part can be cut and removed. That means if there's tissue destruction, infection, or a disease, some disease which affects a body part in such a way that makes it impossible to repair or endangers the person's life, and so that part may be removed by surgical amputation. Amputations are performed to stop a serious disease or infection from spreading to the rest of the body, or if it becomes life-threatening, by removing the affected one. But what can be done to the poor heart that is deeply distressed or diseased? So here there are absolutely health impacts from unresolved psychic unresolved trauma that puts people at increased risks for mental health diagnosis, leading to anxiety, depression, and PTSD. And there are physical manifestations such as cardiovascular problems like high BP, stroke, or heart attacks. So here we find that the deeply diseased poor heart may be the women who had to suffer because of the corrupted patriarchal societal interventions. So we find that loneliness too is a very predominant theme in this poem, that is Rain at Night. And we find this in these stanzas we find the apprehensions of women who suffers in a patriarchal society. Thank you for the time being. We will move on to the next session in the coming class. Thank you. Thank you once again.